When my ex realized he couldn't live without me, it was too late. I was already married with a child. I once thought that 3 years would be enough to melt Marco's icy heart, but I failed. As his girlfriend, my presence was more like that of a nanny, determined to let go. I moved out of his mansion and blocked all his contacts. I left him only one message: the ring has rusted. So have we. Later, I heard people saying that the youngest CEO had gone mad, holding a ring every day and murmuring, "Our love hasn't rusted." Chapter 1. Marco never invited me to his birthday parties. He knew I would always show up looking impeccable, dressed to impress, with the kind of poise and smile that would make him proud in front of everyone. But that night, under the influence of alcohol, Marco treated me like a gift. His thin lips brushed against mine. He was even more irresistible than I had imagined. Amid the crowd's teasing cheers, Marco wrapped his arm around me and led me away. The moment the hotel room card slid into the slot, he pushed me against the wall impatiently. I responded mechanically, as if shattered under his weight. The next morning, I woke up early, lying in his arms. I carefully traced the lines of his face, but when Marco opened his eyes, his expression turned cold again. He pushed me away harshly. After getting dressed, he gave me a long, unreadable look, opened the door, and left without hesitation. Just like before, he left me behind. Chapter 2. Everything that happened at the birthday party quickly spread throughout our circle. My inbox exploded. Apart from a few sincere friends offering comfort, the rest were only there to watch my downfall and mock me while I was already hurting. Our social circle was small, and this wasn't even the first time something like this had happened. The elders from both families called Marco and me in for a talk. His parents kept comforting me, saying, "Alicia, don't worry. When that brat comes back, his father and I will definitely straighten him out. In our hearts, you've always been our daughter-in-law. We won't let you suffer." I forced a small smile. I knew Marco too well. He was far too proud. If he didn't want something, even breaking his legs wouldn't make him accept it. That day, Marco gave everyone in the room a loud, metaphorical slap in the face. He returned with a girl in his arms, a girl in a champagne-colored dress. She looked exactly the same as when I saw her 3 years ago. Marco and I had attended the same university abroad. We were both famous as second-generation rich kids. Back then, I used to drive all kinds of luxury cars just to chase after him. One afternoon, I stood under the blazing sun by the basketball court, watching him play. Then I saw Selena, wearing a white dress, walking across the court to hand him a bottle of water. Marco knew I was watching, yet he still took the bottle from Selena, glanced at me, and drank half of it in one go. I stormed over in anger and grabbed his arm, accidentally spilling water all over Selena. Marco seized me by the collar and ordered coldly, "Apologize." I felt a lump in my throat. "If you don't apologize today, then don't ever bother me again." Marco's voice was calm but firm, his words leaving no room for resistance. Every eye in the court was on me. The humiliation burned through my skin. I didn't want to apologize to Selena, but Marco always meant what he said. "I'm sorry," I muttered finally, then fled the scene without looking at anyone's reaction. 4 days after that, I hid in the shadows, watching Marco and Selena flirt and linger together. Luckily, Selena had to work part-time to support herself, so she didn't have much time for romance. I thought she was just a passing chapter in Marco's life, but he kept her around. And to protect her, I became his shield. Seeing Selena appear again tonight shattered the last bit of illusion I had left. Marco's father stood up angrily, ready to slap him, but my brother stopped him. "In that case," my brother said coldly, "there's nothing more for our two families to discuss." He grabbed my hand and led me away. As I walked past Marco, his indifferent gaze was so hateful that I wished I could gouge his eyes out. Chapter 3. I knew Marco never truly loved Selena, but I also knew that the person who could move his heart would never be me. I decided to take my brother's advice and go to Country B for a while to continue my studies. But then, I found out I was pregnant. For the sake of the baby, I decided to see Marco one last time. When I called him, I realized he had blocked me, so I called our mutual friend, Oscar. He teased me, "Miss Princess, even now you still can't let go?" Teasing aside, he still told me where Marco was. Marco and Selena were racing their motorcycles in Shushan. When I arrived, Marco was wearing a black biker suit, helmet in hand, not yet on his head. His eyes swept over me, full of irritation. What are you doing here? If I told you I'm pregnant, would you stay with me? His gaze met mine. Only if you race me. There was not an ounce of fear in my eyes. Are you serious? Marco didn't answer. A playful smile tugged at his lips. I understand. Give me a helmet. Amid the cheers of the crowd, our race began. We both rode fast, but Marco was better. Pain throbbed in my abdomen, but I held it in, watching the two of them hug and kiss in front of me. My voice trembled. I'll never bother you again. The ring has rusted. Here, take it back. I'll come for my luggage another time. From now on, we're done. That ring was the one I had forced Marco to wear back in college. Now I took it off and threw it at him, without looking back. I turned and left. By the time Oscar stopped his car in front of me, my face was pale and my steps unsteady. Then, I collapsed. He picked me up and saw the pool of blood beneath me. Realizing what had happened, his voice broke with panic. Alicia, wake up! When I didn't respond, he rushed me to the hospital. The surgery light flickered on. Oscar sat in the waiting area and called Marco. When Marco finally arrived, I had already been moved to the ward. In the corridor, Oscar grabbed Marco by the collar. Eyes red. She was pregnant, and you still treated her like that? At the word pregnant, Marco froze. For once, his usually calm face turned pale with panic. His voice was hoarse. Is she okay? Oscar sighed, releasing him slowly. His voice was heavy with sorrow. The baby didn't make it, but she's alive. A wave of grief crashed through Marco's chest. He turned to go to my room, but Oscar stopped him. She doesn't want to see you. It's better if you stay away. Marco's body stiffened. All right. I didn't see anyone for days. I stayed in the hospital for more than half a month. After being discharged, I flew to Country B. I blocked everything about Marco. The lesson was too painful. It was time to let go. Chapter 4. There was no snow in Country B during winter. When I first arrived, I found it hard to adapt to the weather, humid, and always raining. I had to carry an umbrella everywhere. Later, I learned to do as the locals did and began to enjoy walking in the rain. Marco and I moved in the same social circles, so sometimes news about him was unavoidable. Marco had successfully secured the Sangzhou project, earning a conservative profit of 40 million. Now, he was a benchmark figure in our elite circle. Much to the irritation of the idle young heirs around him, Selena was still by Marco's side, attending events with him, caring for him. The perfect couple. It drove his parents crazy, but they could do nothing about it. None of that had anything to do with me anymore. Recently, I had been busy preparing for my graduation project. I majored in directing, and I had found a fantastic male lead for my film. His name was Eric. He was an acting major, a year below me, and also the youngest son and one of the heirs of his family. The car stopped in front of the Hondens Manor. As I pushed open the door, the first thing I saw was someone completely unexpected. Marco sat on the sofa, surrounded by a crowd of people. Our eyes met. A flicker of surprise crossed mine, but I quickly looked away. You look beautiful tonight, Alicia. Eric handed me a glass of champagne, his voice filled with genuine admiration. You look handsome too. I accepted the glass, smiling. Tonight, he wore a custom-tailored suit, elegant like a nobleman who had just stepped out of a movie and into real life. Eric kissed my forehead happily. The gesture didn't escape Marco's eyes. His fist clenched unconsciously at his side. Alicia, how have you been lately? I heard Lucas was sick. You must have had a hard time. May I play with him tomorrow? You can, but you can't take him outside. Eric, Lucas's health isn't good, and it's been windy lately. With my permission granted. Eric suddenly lifted me into his arms, ignoring the setting and drawing everyone's attention. His sister Emma, seeing her mischievous brother, shot him a look that told him to behave, and finally said aloud, Eric, mind your manners. Only then did he reluctantly put me down. Emma called him over to greet the guests. Eric kept glancing back at me, dragged away by his sister, unwillingly, looking at his pitiful expression. I couldn't help thinking how much Lucas had learned his pouting from him. I stood in the corner of the banquet, eating quietly, when a tall shadow suddenly loomed over me. Long time no see, Alicia. The familiar voice made my hand tremble. The little cake I had just picked up fell to the floor. Cursing myself inwardly for being so weak, I steadied my nerves, turned around, and greeted him calmly. Long time no see, Marco. There was something unreadable in Marco's eyes. He looked at me like a predator sizing up his prey. How did you meet him? I knew perfectly well who he meant. My tone was calm and distant. He's my junior, but that has nothing to do with you, does it? Seeing how eager I was to draw a line between us, veins pulsed on Marco's forehead. Furious, he grabbed my hand and dragged me out of the hall. I struggled the whole way, trying to break free, but failed. His behavior disgusted me. The way he looked at me now was as though I were his possession. In the garden, he trapped me between a tree and his arm. His gaze was cold, contemptuous. Good for you. Didn't you once say you'd only ever love me? What's with this Eric guy? Marco. 3 years ago I already made myself clear. Now, aside from business matters, I can't think of any reason that still ties us together. One should keep their word. Marco suddenly roared, his voice full of rage. It was the first time I had ever seen him lose control like that. Sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you. He turned his head aside, voice low. What is it? Are you regretting it now? Or do you just want to keep both women at once? My eyes were mocking. Marco said nothing. Silence fell between us, expressionless. I looked up at him. Marco, you really disgust me. You can't stand to see me happy. Can you? You think I'm still the same woman who couldn't live without you? I lifted my hand and traced his features. I'm not your plaything anymore. I have a new life. Please don't interfere. Marco stared at me in disbelief. So you really like that Eric? He's going to inherit his family's company one day. He's not as simple as he seems. That's not something you need to worry about. Mr. Marco. Eric suddenly appeared, cutting into the conversation. He grabbed Marco's shoulder, pulling him back, and wrapped his arm protectively around me. What happens between Alicia and me is none of your concern. Sir, I'll always be with Alicia. He then led me away. After briefly explaining to his sister Emma, Eric drove me home. What did you mean back there? I asked. Eric stopped the car by the roadside, leaning closer. His usual sunny smile was gone, replaced by determination. I meant every word. My sister is better suited to lead the family. I've liked you for a long time. Alicia, don't tell me you didn't know. A trace of discomfort crossed my face. I have a son, Marco's son. I know. I don't care. Lucas already sees me as his father, and I've always treated him as my own. I couldn't meet Eric's sincere gaze. Deep down, I felt unworthy of him. Because of my health, I'll never be able to have another child. Can you accept that? I can. Lucas will be my only son in this lifetime. Eric's answer came instantly, almost desperate, but his eagerness frightened me more. I tried to unbuckle my seatbelt, wanting to escape. Eric caught my hand and pressed it to his chest. I can wait. I can stay by your side. Let's take things slow, all right? Chapter 5. Daddy, Mommy, you're back. The moment we walked through the door, chubby little Lucas came running and threw himself into my arms. Hey, sweetheart. Eric caught him midair and lifted him high. Lucas smacked a kiss on Eric's cheek. Daddy, did you bring me something tasty? Lucas, how many times have I told you, call him uncle. He's not your dad. I rubbed my son's soft hair. But you said my dad didn't want us anymore. So why can't I find myself a new one? Eric kissed Lucas's little hand. That's my boy. What do you want to eat? Daddy will make it for you. After a long round of playful chaos, we finally got Lucas to sleep. Still, thank you, I said softly. Back then, my health was poor. I was juggling school and caring for this little one. My brother once offered to hire a nanny, but Lucas had been born premature. I wanted to take care of him myself. One day, I was pushing the stroller out of the supermarket, a large bag of groceries in hand, when a masked man suddenly snatched the purse hanging from the stroller. Because of the pull, the stroller toppled, and Lucas burst into loud cries. I hurriedly scooped him up to comfort him, but my bag was gone, and inside was Lucas's favorite stuffed toy, the one that had been with him since birth. Frantic, I called out for help. Eric heard my voice and, without hesitation, chased after the thief. He didn't catch the man, but he managed to retrieve my bag. All the valuables were gone, yet the toy remained. After handing me the bag, Eric ran off before I could even ask his name. Later, when I was substituting for my professor's class, I met him again. He recognized me too. We gradually became close. He really was like a warm ray of sunlight, brightening my once dark world. But I couldn't afford to drag him into my mess. The next morning, I took Lucas shopping. As soon as we stepped out, we ran into Marco. I instinctively tried to hide Lucas behind me. Then Marco spoke. Don't bother hiding him. I know he's my son. You and Oscar didn't do a very good job covering it up. I covered Lucas's eyes and ears. So you're here to take my son away from me? Marco pulled out the ring I had thrown away years ago, resting it on his palm. The position of Mrs. Marco will always belong to you. Our child deserves a rightful name. His words nearly drove me mad. In your dreams. I grabbed my son's hand and walked past him quickly. But Marco didn't leave. His long strides followed us. Lucas looked up, curious. Mommy, that uncle's been following us. Who is he? I don't know. Let's just finish shopping and go home. Mommy will make something delicious for you. I quickened my pace, arms soon full of bags. My other hand held Lucas's tightly, already tiring. Let me help. The man behind us stepped forward and took the bags from my hands. I shot him a wary look. Marco sighed. You have a child to care for. Be careful. Lucas was at the age where he was endlessly mischievous, and lately the neighborhood hadn't been very safe. I reluctantly accepted Marco's help. I walked ahead holding Lucas's hand, while Marco followed behind with the bags. Soon, we reached home. The door opened from inside. It was Eric, back from class. It was Friday, our dinner together day. Eric first took Lucas's little hand, letting him run inside to play. Then he reached to take the bags from Marco, but Marco dodged him. What? Not inviting me in to sit for a bit? I stepped forward, ready to refuse, but Eric spoke before I could. Of course. Come in. He then gave me a reassuring look. Chapter 6. Marco looked around the room like he owned the place, his gaze sweeping over everything until it stopped in front of the photo wall. It was the photo wall that Eric and I had carefully made for Lucas. Each picture captured a precious moment, from his first baby tooth to his first steps. And now, to the mischievous little rascal he had become. Marco studied the photos intently. I scooped up Lucas, who was crawling all over the carpet. We played outside today. You're all dusty. Let's go take a bath. I'll help you, Marco offered. No need. It'll be quick. My refusal was firm. Marco said nothing more, continuing to stare at the photos. From the kitchen, Eric poked his head out after hearing the noise. No need. Mr. Marco, you must be tired. Please rest on the sofa. Dinner will be ready soon. The harmony between Eric and me was so natural that Marco couldn't find a place to fit in. He had no choice but to sit down and rest. Tonight, Eric had prepared a full table of dishes that Lucas and I both loved. As soon as Lucas was seated in his high chair, he started shouting excitedly. Daddy, Daddy, I want shrimp. Marco had just picked up a shrimp with his chopsticks when Eric came out of the kitchen with a small bowl of baby food. Lucas's meal also has shrimp today. The moment Lucas saw the food, he grabbed his spoon and started eating eagerly. The atmosphere at the table was strange. Eric and I sat on one side, with Lucas in the middle, while Marco sat alone on the other side. The three of us looked like a family, and it made him deeply uncomfortable. Why is he almost 3 and still eating special nutrition meals? Marco asked, frowning as he watched Lucas eat happily. Premature birth. My tone was calm, but those 2 words filled Marco's chest with guilt. He dropped his chopsticks clumsily and left the table in a panic. Chapter 7. After that day, I didn't see Marco again. Selena had caused a major scandal back home, which led to the suspension of one of the Marco family's long-awaited contracts. Marco had no choice but to rush back to handle the mess. 3 months later, I finally graduated. It had been 3 years since I last returned home, and my brother missed me terribly. Time truly is the best healer. Marco no longer meant anything to me. I boarded my flight home. Eric, however, was determined to be with me, ready to give up everything for it. It took Emma's intervention to finally calm him down. Wait for me. As soon as I graduate, I'll come find you. At the airport, Eric held me and Lucas tightly, tears streaming down his face. I couldn't help but laugh and gently pushed him away. All right. It's time. We'll miss the flight. Perhaps beneath the clouds. Eric was still standing there, eyes red as he watched my plane depart. The thought made me smile. Throughout the journey, Lucas behaved perfectly. But unfortunately, heavy rain suddenly poured down, causing traffic around the airport. The family driver called to apologize. Lucas had already fallen asleep in my arms, exhausted, with several suitcases beside us. I could only wait where I was. Let me carry him. Marco's voice suddenly came from beside me. I turned in surprise. What are you doing here? Selena's filming in the neighboring city. Just a coincidence. Marco didn't say another word. He held Lucas firmly with one arm and grabbed the largest suitcase with the other. Seeing that, I quickly picked up the smaller one and followed him. Marco drove us home himself. Chapter 8. The next day. Somehow, Selena managed to get my contact information. She wouldn't stop calling, asking to meet. I was beyond annoyed. Why were both of them so damn irritating? All right, talk. What do you want from me? So you're back? You even brought the child with you. Impressive move. Selena was no longer the timid girl she used to be. Relax. I won't disturb you and Marco. And why should I relax? Her voice was laced with jealousy and bitterness. I'm about to marry Marco, and yet here you are, showing up with your son at such a delicate time, still clinging on. Huh? Do you really think having a child can tie a man down? Ha, that's ridiculous. You gave yourself to Marco back then, didn't you? And look how miserable that turned out. Take my advice, leave before you embarrass yourself again. After saying that, Selena gracefully lifted her cup and took a slow sip of coffee. You can always give him a child of your own. And by the way, this is my home country. Your request is a bit out of your league, don't you think? There was a faint smile in my eyes as I looked at her. Selena froze for a second, startled by the way I looked straight through her. I paid the bill and left with ease. My son had grown and wasn't as clingy anymore. With my brother and the nanny helping at home, I began to focus on my film project. Once production started, news of my return, with my child, spread like wildfire through the circle. Everyone assumed I was planning to go after Marco again, waiting eagerly to see me make a fool of myself. Too bad, they were all wrong. I threw myself completely into filmmaking, having no time to care about gossip. Thanks to my family background, I received piles of actor portfolios. Following my assistant director's suggestion, we decided to hold open auditions. After interviewing several actresses in a row, none impressed me. Next. Hello everyone. I'm Selena from Jincheng Entertainment. Selena stood there in a dress that fit the character perfectly. Introducing herself, the voice was familiar, keeping a professional tone. I said, "You may begin your performance." Selena bowed slightly, then started her audition. I had to admit, Selena had improved. Her acting was far better than before. But so what? Next, Selena gathered her courage and asked, "May I know what was wrong with my performance? Or did you reject me for some other reason? I hope you can be fair." I raised an eyebrow, my tone sharp and cold. "Since you asked, I'll be honest. Your acting makes me sick, even if we ignore that. I'm the producer. I make the rules." Next. Chapter 9. Selena's eyes turned red. She was about to leave when Marco pushed open the door. Selena immediately clung to his arm with a pitiful expression. "Marco." Marco frowned and pulled her hand away. "I heard everything. The company didn't schedule you for this audition. Why are you here?" A flicker of panic crossed Selena's face. "My agent told me to come." Marco instantly understood. His tone was indifferent. "If you didn't pass, then leave." Selena hadn't expected such cold words from him. She shot me a hateful glare, stomped her foot, and stormed out in anger. Someone recorded the whole scene and posted it online, sparking a heated argument between her haters and her fans. Marco didn't leave, after all. He was one of the investors in this film. When the first day of auditions ended, I chose a strong, seasoned actress as the female lead. During lunch, everyone ate from takeout boxes. But Marco, being the pampered aristocrat he was, clearly couldn't handle that. Alicia, let's go eat out. He stood with his hands in his pockets, frowning at the food in my hands. I had just stuffed a bite of rice into my mouth and mumbled, "No thanks." The crew already prepared lunch. Oh, right, I forgot. Our young master doesn't eat this kind of food. The next day was the male actor audition, and my eyes were tortured all morning. Marco showed up early at the casting venue. I ignored him and kept working. The candidates were talented, but none quite fit the role. By noon, Marco had arranged for a truckload of food to be delivered for all the staff. I frowned and went straight to him. What exactly are you trying to do? You're a company president, yet you spend every day hanging around my set. Does that make sense to you? Marco calmly wiped his mouth and looked straight into my eyes. One of the company's projects ran into trouble. I need your family's help. Selena's fiasco with his family's business was no secret in the industry. I nodded knowingly. So you're really devoted to Selena? Huh? Fine. I'll discuss it with my brother. Now, can you leave? Evening came, and my brows were furrowed tight. After a full day, I still hadn't found the right male lead. Director, the last candidate just got back from abroad. He's asking if we can wait for him. I waved dismissively. Sure. I didn't know how much time had passed. I was resting my head on the table, almost dozing off, while Marco sat beside me, going through documents on his tablet. That was the thing about him, he'd do anything to get what he wanted. Suddenly, the door swung open, breaking the silence. Sorry, I'm late. It was Eric's voice. I snapped my head up, startled. He was still in his travel clothes. Straight off the plane, Marco set down his tablet, his face darkening at the sight of Eric. It's settled then, I said, slapping the script. You're the male lead. I object. Marco interjected. Objection overruled. The director has the final say. Ignoring everyone's stunned reactions, I grabbed Eric's hand and left. Chapter 10. Why did you suddenly come back? Did you graduate? I took a leave of absence. I looked at him in shock. Why? Eric scratched his head awkwardly. After you left, I was like a zombie at home. My sister couldn't stand it anymore. She kicked me out and said I couldn't come back until I won my wife. I quickly changed the subject. So, where are you staying? Didn't your brother tell you? I'm living at your place. I immediately checked my phone. Sure enough, there was a message from my brother. I called him right away. What did you mean by bring him home quickly? The background on his end was noisy. What? You already met him? He's been working his tail off for you for years. I decided to give the guy a hand. Then he hung up. I glared at Eric, who was grinning smugly. When did you and my brother become allies? It was your brother's idea. Lucas will love it. Hey, don't hit my face. With the cast finalized and funding secured, filming began. Since Eric's return, Marco had been showing up at the set every few days, using every excuse imaginable to inspect. It was getting on my nerves. I called my brother on video. Hey, how are we handling the Marco family issue? You're not still hung up on him, are you? You've got Eric now. We don't mess with love triangles in this family. I rolled my eyes. Do I look like that kind of person? I haven't had feelings for Marco in ages. But Lucas is still his son. Whatever's between us, the child is innocent. His family's assets, Lucas will have a share someday. I need to think about his future. When did you become so money-minded? Ever since I started making films. There are too many expenses now. And honestly, who complains about having too much money? Besides, if our family can get a slice of this project, it'll only help the company. My brother nodded approvingly. I'll call a board meeting tomorrow to discuss it. We chatted a bit more about family matters before hanging up, both in good spirits. Chapter 11. Recently, Selena hadn't seen Marco at the company. From the secretary, she learned that Marco had been spending all his time on my film set. Enraged, she smashed a glass right then and there. Soon after, Selena began posting vague, passive-aggressive remarks online about the audition video, implying that I was arrogant and difficult to work with. As more people chimed in, the narrative shifted. and public opinion started turning against me. Ironically, the film became popular halfway through shooting, thanks to the scandal. I figured that bad publicity was still publicity, and it saved me a lot of marketing money. The crew had a day off today, but as the chief director, I didn't allow myself one. But fate is unpredictable. While inspecting tomorrow's shooting location at noon, it suddenly began to pour. There was nowhere to take shelter. Within minutes, I was drenched from head to toe. Through the blur of rain, a dark silhouette approached me. It was Marco, holding an umbrella. We ran together under the same umbrella, dashing through the heavy rain. Marco tilted the umbrella toward me, leaving himself completely soaked. The downpour was relentless, so we decided to stay the night at a nearby hotel, of course, in separate rooms. In the elevator, I watched the floor numbers change and said, "You must have seen the contract by now." Honestly, I pity you, having such a draining girlfriend. Marco stayed silent. The atmosphere was heavy, neither of us speaking. By coincidence, Selena's manager was also staying at that same hotel. When she spotted Marco and me entering together, she quickly hid behind a pillar. She memorized our floor number and secretly changed her room to the same level. That night, a series of urgent knocks woke me from my sleep. Peeking through the peephole, I saw Marco, dressed in a bathrobe. His face flushed unnaturally red. I hesitated to open the door, but the knocking continued. Fearing something was wrong, I finally unlocked it. Marco's tall frame collapsed forward. The moment he leaned close, I felt the burning heat radiating from his body. Touching his forehead confirmed it. He had a fever. I tried to get him up, but he was too heavy. I kept calling his name, and thankfully, he was at least semi-conscious. After the struggle, my robe had come loose. I hurriedly pulled him inside the room. Hidden in the shadows, Manager Chen secretly recorded everything on her phone. I tried physical cooling methods, but nothing worked. In his feverish haze, Marco mumbled, "Alicia." I was wrong, but my heart no longer stirred for him, not even a ripple. I called Eric. "Did something happen?" he asked. I had already told him earlier that I'd be working late. Seeing his expression through the video, I could tell he hadn't slept either. I turned the camera toward Marco, lying unconscious on the sofa. Eric's expression changed instantly. "He has a fever." I tried the same cooling method I used for Lucas before, but it's not working. He's an adult, not a child like Lucas. "The rain's easing up now, I'm coming over." Marco stayed where he was, sprawled on the couch. Moments later, there was another knock. It was Eric, his hands full of medicine bags. He first checked Marco's temperature with a thermometer, then forced a few doses down his throat. The medicine worked quickly. Marco's fever broke. We covered him with a blanket and booked 2 more rooms. After a long night of chaos, Eric and I finally went to bed, exhausted. The next morning, the front desk told me Marco had already left. Tisk. He didn't even say thank you. "That's it, I'm calling my brother. I'm charging their family double." Eric watched me with a soft, doting smile but said nothing to stop me. After the storm, the skies cleared, and our film was nearing its final scenes. Chapter 12. Director. "Something's wrong. There's bad news online." The screenwriter's voice trembled with panic. I opened Weibo and saw the hashtag Alicia's ASIM sitting at the top of the trending list. A gossip blogger had exposed every detail of my tangled past with Marco, claiming I was the homewrecker who destroyed his relationship with Selena. Now, the couple's fans were in full rage mode, attacking me everywhere online. No way. Even if she's rich, that doesn't mean she can ruin someone's relationship. Exactly. I'm standing up for Selena's love. With morals like that, how could her film possibly be any good? Boycott it. Under those comments, more and more people joined the mob. Before long, the official promo accounts for my movie were being maliciously reported across every platform. Then, someone leaked a photo of Marco in a bathrobe standing in my hotel room that night. I immediately switched into crisis management mode. First, stabilize public opinion, then talk solutions. I called Marco, but he didn't answer, leaving the set in the care of my assistant director. I drove straight to his company. On the way, Eric called to comfort me. He was already investigating the matter. With my background, Entering Marco's company headquarters wasn't difficult. When I reached his floor, his secretary stopped me. "Miss, you can't go in. I have urgent business with Marco." "I'm sorry, but no." She looked uneasy but firm. "Then I'll wait." I sat down right outside the secretary's office. 3 hours later, Marco finally appeared. I'd been scrolling through the online chaos the whole time. It was getting worse by the minute. "Marco." I stepped forward to stop him, my tone urgent. "I'll handle this properly." "Marco, you're also an investor in this film. Can you show some accountability? I can't just stand by and watch people drag my work through the mud." We held an emergency PR meeting with his company's media team. When it was over, I rushed home. Lucas hadn't seen me in 2 days. He was crying hard in Eric's arms. That night, Eric handed me a folder. Inside was a full report detailing how Selena and her agent had orchestrated the smear campaign. I forwarded the file to Marco, but Selena's situation was complicated. She was an artist under one of Marco's subsidiary companies and bound by a performance clause, a bet-on agreement that made removing her difficult. After receiving the evidence, Marco stayed silent. "Wow, you really do care about her," I said coldly. Eric's family had long since moved overseas, leaving limited influence here in the country, so this time, I had to take matters into my own hands. I hired a private investigator, sparing no expense. Within 3 days, he found something on Selena. "Looks like your sweetheart doesn't only love you." I sent Marco a file. Inside were scandalous photos of Selena with one of the executives involved in her contract deal. When Marco saw the pictures, his face darkened like thunder. Furious, he confronted Selena, slamming the photos on the table and demanding an explanation. I didn't care what happened afterward. What mattered was that I now held the evidence. Soon, both the film's official account and my family's company released a lawyer's statement. The situation flipped overnight. Once Selena's photos went public, the wind changed direction. She became a public disgrace, an industry pariah, facing massive penalty fines for breaching her contract. Meanwhile, Marco's company suffered heavy financial losses from the scandal. He was now too busy cleaning up the mess to bother me again. Chapter 13. Right now. The phrase "a blessing in disguise" describes me perfectly. Because of the earlier scandal, the film turned out to be a massive hit. Every day, I was busy promoting it and appearing on talk shows with the 2 lead actors. During one interview, the host asked Eric, "So, why did you decide to take this role?" With a serious expression, but eyes unconsciously glancing toward me, Eric replied, "Because of my girlfriend." I shot him an irritated look. Who announces their relationship on national TV right after confessing the night before? Did this man not care at all about his career? Soon, the internet dubbed us the sweet couple. Still, we made sure to protect Lucas's existence carefully. Neither Eric nor I wanted to invite unnecessary trouble. Chapter 14. After one successful project, I immediately threw myself into the next film. This time, the shoot was in the mountains, a risky location situated near a seismic fault line. Tremors were common, so everyone was extra cautious. Eric played the supporting male role this time, while the lead was a veteran actor. The scene we were filming today was set on the mountain outside the studio lot. In the afternoon, just 3 scenes in, I could already feel the ground trembling beneath my feet. It was an aftershock. At that moment, Eric and I were discussing a scene when I caught a faint smell of gunpowder. Marco happened to be there too. He'd been inspecting renovation work at the nearby film base. Of all the places, it had to be this one. How unlucky. Everything went dark. The air was thick with dust, dirt, and that acrid gunpowder smell. Eric and I were lucky. We were wedged safely between some rocks. Marco wasn't so fortunate. Half of his body was buried under debris, separated from us by a massive boulder. I could hear Eric's breathing, but he must have been hit in the head. After assuring me he was fine, he passed out. Marco's situation was worse. The smell of blood drifted from his side. When I reached out, my hand touched something warm and sticky. I realized it was blood. Fear coursed through me. My voice was weak and hoarse. "Marco, wake up. I don't want you dying in front of me. That's bad luck." No matter how much I provoked him, Marco didn't respond. Eventually, exhaustion overcame me, and I couldn't speak anymore. I could still feel the warm, thick blood seeping through my fingers, more and more of it. I held on until the rescuers arrived, then blacked out completely. Tragically, one of our crew members didn't survive the disaster. When I woke up again, Eric was sitting by my bedside, his arm in a cast. "Are you okay? How bad is it? Let me see." I reached to pull up his sleeve. Eric quickly caught my hand and gently pushed me back down. "I'm fine, rest." When news of the incident hit the internet, I gained a new nickname, Film Widow. People said I paid too high a price for my art. Soon, netizens began accusing me of being a blood-sucking capitalist. I opened a new social media account and posted a public apology video. I compensated the family of the deceased crew member and handwrote a 10,000-word letter of apology. Only then did public outrage start to calm. When my brother learned that Eric and I were injured, he took a night flight to see us. In the hospital room, he punched Eric. "You said you'd protect Alicia. This is your idea of protection?" It wasn't all Eric's fault. I interrupted quickly. "It was my negligence that caused this accident." My brother shot me a furious glare. "There's something off about this. That quake wasn't strong enough to cause a landslide." I told him about the smell of gunpowder. We immediately reported it to the police. Chapter 15. Today was the first time I gathered the courage to visit Marco. When I pushed open the hospital room door, Marco was sitting in a wheelchair, a blanket draped over his legs, gazing out the window. "You came," he said, turning his wheelchair toward me with a faint smile. "You." My eyes shifted toward his legs. Marco patted them lightly, unconcerned, his tone calm. "It's fine. I'm just crippled now. I'll have to rely on a cane for the rest of my life." Watching such a proud man reduced to this state, I couldn't help feeling a pang of sorrow in my heart. Chapter 16. Half a month later, the truth behind the earthquake and landslide was finally revealed. It was Selina's doing. Selina had been a top student in the Department of Physical Chemistry. After everything that had happened, she had become like a rat hiding in the sewers. Her hatred for Marco and me ran deep, bone deep. Using her looks, Selina managed to sneak into the film crew. She calculated the geological structure of the filming site and planted a small amount of explosives, so that even a mild tremor would trigger a landslide. In the end, Selina received the punishment she deserved. Chapter 17. After a 6-month hiatus, the film resumed production. During that time, Eric also completed his studies. I decided to finish what I started. One should never give up on their dreams so easily. During my darkest days, Eric had stayed by my side through it all. I wasn't alone. I still had my lover and my child. When I received the film festival invitation, my second movie, The Distant Horizon, had been nominated. When the cast and crew arrived at the venue, my heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. My palms were sweating uncontrollably. Nervously, I gripped the side of my gown and took a step forward. Eric reached out and caught my hand. He smiled softly, then bent down to lift the hem of my dress. I was so nervous I'd forgotten how long the gown was. "Slow down. Don't rush. I'm here." I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. After steadying myself, I nodded at him. Together, we walked into the venue. The waiting felt endless. After listening to round after round of speeches and awards, finally, The Distant Horizon appeared on the big screen. Best Director and Best Actress. When the thank you speech ended, the host playfully teased, "I heard the director has some good news to share. Should we ask if it's true?" I lowered my head with a smile and raised my left hand. On my ring finger was a diamond ring. My gaze turned to Eric in the audience. The cameras captured everything. Under the spotlight, Eric smiled up at me. We received blessings from all over the internet.